Greetings, sailors! Now, as you're probably aware, on the Saturday just gone, we had a Dream Team event because, of course, team battles are now a thing in World of Warships. So, the EU community team contacted myself, along with a number of other community contributors, and said, why not put a super team together and we can showcase this event. So, yeah, it happened on Saturday, and basically the premise was that if you beat us, you got some nice goodies, and the team that we felt the best was of all the teams that we actually faced off against, they got some extra goodies as well. Now, nobody did actually beat us. We went for a winning streak of 12-0, so that was really nice, and we were actually all playing together really very well. And it did help that we were being led by Flamu, who is a very, very competent player indeed. He was basically calling the plays, and then we were doing our best to make that happen. But this game, well, this is the toughest battle we had by far. Now, these guys were the guys that walked away with the extra special goodies, because even though they didn't beat us, they almost did. And if you've watched the VOD I put up, you'll know that this was by far our toughest fight. And I actually felt like it was worthy enough, it was an entertaining enough fight, it was a tough enough fight to be worthy of a full-blown replay. So I've pulled out my replay file, and we're going to have it in glorious 1080p rather than fuzzy 480p, which is unfortunately all I can stream at. Now, if you want the original audio, I think what I'll do is I'll put a link in the description with a timestamp on the VOD, and you can actually listen to it as it was happening. I think this was our 10th battle, so this was towards the end of the evening. And if you've watched that, you'll know that the guys we were facing were a team comprised of super testers. So they're all veteran players. They're all people who are quite experienced in World of Warships. You don't get to be a super tester by being a noob like me. So we knew we were in for a tough fight. And we'd had, I think, prior to this point, at least one other battle that had felt reasonably tough, but we'd still walked away with most of our team alive, and we'd just done really well overall. And the thing about team battles is it's a different thing. It's more about the coordinating, working together, concentrating fire on targets, and not derping out and dying, because, of course, in Warships especially, that costs your team points, and it gives the enemy team points, so staying alive is quite important. But you still have to also defend enough cap points to ensure a win, because if you all sail around at the back of the map and just stay alive when the enemy team gets free access to all the cap points, you're not going to win. And actually, we beat a fair few teams that way, just by having control of more cap points. And you'll know yourself, even if you've only ever played random battles, the team, like, if one team just lets the other team control all the cap points, it's very, very difficult to come back from that. So I started off playing all right, but I'm going to say my shooting was not the best in this one, having sat down and watched the replay and watched how much lead I was giving to various ships. I think I handled the ship itself all right, and this was the first time I'd taken out the Amagi in a while. It's just been sat in my port. Because, of course, I'm now through to the Izumo. When I play Warships these days, it's, I really enjoy it, but because the battles take longer, I tend to concentrate my efforts into those ships that I'm actually actively grinding, which at the moment pretty much is the Izumo. Now I've got the Colorado unlocked. I've also, of course, got the Soviet preview cruisers. There will be, I'm hoping this week we'll get the first of those videos out. I think I've got enough of a feel of the low tiers to talk about those. I'm still needing to play more battles in the high tiers, but it will come. But yeah, some of this actually did take, because we're all, community contributors and staff members and whatever, we had access to the Soviet cruisers. But unfortunately, the way they've given us these ships this time around, they kind of messed it up a little bit, and I actually didn't have the credits to outfit the Tier 8, the Chapayev. So I decided, at one point I was going to take it, and then I realised, actually no, I've got no equipment on this thing. I don't even have damage control, so I decided, actually no, I should stick with the ships that I've got fully decked out, basically. Anyway, we started off facing, we've taken A, they've taken B, and it's a bit... We're just skirmishing at the moment. We're kind of trading fire back and forth at a distance, and nobody's making a push. And actually, probably the most intensive fight, or at least for the first phase of the battle, was between Flamu in his carrier and the enemy carrier. Although we had lost Isolate by this point, unfortunately. He was initially going to go for B, and then because he was the furthest target out from us, you know, the nearest towards the enemy team, they were able to focus him, and I think it actually popped up in the chat. He was faced with the choice of either turning broadside to a bunch of battleships or taking some torpedoes, and either way he was kind of screwed. So yeah, we're down on a Targo already, and that gives the enemy team, as you can see, a pretty reasonable points advantage. Because, as I said, you not only do the enemy team get points, but you lose points yourself, so it's a double whammy. It's toned down a lot from what it used to be, though. I think they actually cut it in half for like battleships, and well, I think for all classes actually. Battleships I particularly remember, because battleships and carriers used to be worth 90 points, and then they just chopped it in half to 45 points, which was a good thing, because when you had the capital ships being worth quite so much, it meant that battles didn't last nearly as long, because you only had to kill a couple of battleships and suddenly you were hundreds of points ahead. Now I screwed up here. I knew there was some torpedoes incoming, and only one of them was spotted, so it was a bit of guesswork as to where the rest were going to be, but that looked like it was maybe going to be one I could dodge, and then like I said, I screwed it up. So that's unfortunate. That's a bit of damage taken, but it was only one torp, and I took it on the nose, although I did still, well, not quite on the nose, but it struck the bulges, so I don't think I got the full, that was only like 10k damage I took there. But I did still flood, so I had to use the repair party there. So we're still basically just testing each other, probing at this point. And because, well, for this replay I've got the damage counter enabled, but not the minimap, because the minimap doesn't seem to be working correctly yet from Aslain's. I was having some issues loading into battles correctly, so I've taken that off entirely. But yeah, without the minimap, it's not so bad in a team battle environment, because there's a more limited number of ships to keep track of. But in random battles, I definitely find it tougher, because I'm used to having that information. And of course, that is information that you just get by default in World of Tanks these days. So really nice to have that in Warships as well, and not have to use mods for that. But I don't know, maybe that will come in time. So I'm starting to make a turn here. I don't want to press too far forward. Both the enemy destroyers are still left alive. We lost Voulez-Vous, our destroyer, in the Benson, so again that's put them reasonably far ahead, but Flamu did actually manage to win his fight, so the enemy carrier is down, so we're actually ahead on points right now, even though we've lost 2 ships and they've lost 1, because that one carrier is worth more than a destroyer and a cruiser. But it's unfortunate we've lost our destroyer, though, because he was our scout, basically. And what we're left with is pair of battleships. Jingles is in the Kutuzov. I think Phelan was in an Otago. So, of all of them, if Phelan's got a fairly stealthy setup, I think he's going to have something like 10 or 11 kilometers detection range, but he's still going to easily be outspotted by those Bensons. So he can't really scout ahead in the same way that Voulez-Vous could have. So that was unfortunate. We're down another ship now. Also taking a bit more damage, and I seem to be the prime focus of the enemy at the moment. Now, one thing that this team was doing, which was smart, is they weren't, like, there were a couple of times when there was somebody that was an obvious target, but they were spending a lot of time sort of weaving and turning. And what that means is that it becomes harder to focus fire, especially on enemy battleships, if one of them's making themselves an attractive target for a short period of time, and then turning, and then the other one's turning and making themselves an attractive target, you know, so they can get their full firepower on point for a brief period. So that means that you're switching fire constantly, because there's no point firing at a beam-on battleship when there's no, what do I mean? A bow-on battleship, not a beam-on battleship. When there's a broadside battleship available, because unless you've got the time to then sit and reload HE shells, and oh yeah, talking of broadside battleships, that was painful. It's a way of spreading the health around, basically, because nobody is making themselves too attractive a target for too long of a time. And that way everybody's hit points lasts longer. And in a team battle context, that's really important. Now, in World of Tanks, it's more about trying to shield low health allies to keep people's guns in the game. That's not really a factor in this game. So what these guys were doing was actually really smart, and I think they were doing it better than us. And I actually, when I was making that turn and got caught out, I mean, that had to be like a double citadel or something, or maybe a citadel and a couple of other penetrating hits. I was getting complacent and thinking, okay, they'll be targeting Conway, who was ahead of me in the turrets, but no, they went for me because I was broadsided in a Amagi, and of course that's who you'd go for. But we're being forced back at this point. They are now starting to make a push. So their battleships are sticking together. They're being backed up by the cruisers. The cruisers aren't pushing ahead. The cruisers are in with the battleships, and because the cruisers have lower detection ranges, it means the battleships can keep doing this thing where one of them's turning and the other's sailing straight, and then vice versa, to basically mitigate the amount of time they're being focused individually. And that also means that we don't have those softer cruiser targets available. Although at these kind of ranges, I think we're outside of the Targo's range at the moment, but we will be inside the range of the enemy Kutuzov. And of course, they've still got those two Bensons. Well, a Benson and a Lo Yang. But anyway, we can actually see the cruisers at the moment, so that's what I'm going to go for anyway. And I think that's what the target that was being called was at that moment. I'm not sure. But then I spot this Amagi's turning back broadside, so we'll actually put the remaining shots in his direction. Now, so far, damage-wise, I've not done a huge amount. 31,000 is not super great, but it's less about damage and more about coordination in team battles. You need people to do, the damage, but it's not really about like random battles. It's more the kind of glory of, well, I'm going to do high damage and that's going to get me a good score, and I'm going to walk away with a lot of credits and a lot of XP. Although, in terms of XP, at least, you can also get good results from, of course, capping. Oh, right, this Amagi, we were focusing him, I think, pretty hard at this point, because he's by far the lowest health. And there we go, actually got the kill. But moreover in team battles, it's about winning rather than individual results. So, the clue's in the name, team. The team part's pretty important. So the Amagi's down, and that's really good. I mean, I played the Amagi mostly through the evening. I did at various times try the Kutuzov, the Atago. I think the very last battle, I played the Biskvitsa because I didn't have a tier 8 destroyer. But it still proved to be fairly capable. Now, unfortunately, we're about to lose Jingles because he's... Yeah, there we go. So we've lost points. They've gained points. And that's because he gotten kind of stranded out of position compared to the rest of us. We're all being really forced back by these guys. We're trying to defend the cap, but it's it's proving tricky. But then we've lost Jingles as well. So they really, really were coordinated. They were keeping together. They were pushing very well. I was making a point there, and I think I sidetracked myself with the point pointing out Jingles died, unfortunately. But I've forgotten what the point was I was making now. Well done me. Anyway, but yeah, this is bad. This is bad. They're capping. Yeah. And they've got a pair of destroyers. Now, of course, Flamu still has planes available, and he's doing his best to do some damage to keep ships lit up. He's also heading towards A. He's not He's not sitting idly at the back. He's actually going to go and cap A. And of course, high-tier carriers are reasonably fast. But he's not going to get there before they cap us out. And this is looking increasingly dicey. I think we actually ended up saying on the live stream, I can't remember who said it exactly, Conway maybe, but it almost felt like these guys deserved the win. But I've already given it away when I said that we were undefeated in the entire evening, that they're not going to win. So how do we come back from this? The enemy control both cap circles, although we're about to cap A, or start capping A, which will at least deny them getting 2 cap circles worth of points, but they're still getting 1 cap circle's worth of points. So it's not looking good. It's really not looking good. So cruisers are absolutely the #1 priority right now because we need points. Points mean time. And I've actually started pushing back in towards B. Conway himself, he was the focus for a long while and he's not got much health left. So it's kind of up to me to take the lead again here. Phelan's still alive in the Otago as well, and he's not too far behind me. But I kind of need them to shoot at me rather than Phelan. And it's at this moment we get a massive stroke of luck. I get a double Citadel on that Otago. And that buys us time. That absolutely buys us time, and that's what we need. So we're not still ahead on points, but Flamu has at least captured A at this point. So it's neck and neck. There's just over 20 points. Not even that. 10 points between us. So it really does come down to, can we get another kill? Less than 4 minutes to go, and it's at this point, well, look at Flamu's planes going for that Benson. My concentration at this moment was more on the North Carolina, because he doesn't have a lot of health. And, oh, hello, well, that's got to be the Low Yang's torpedoes in the water. But fortunately, I'm not just sailing in a straight line. I was varying course, because I was very well aware that there were still destroyers around. But yeah, although we can't see it, the denouement is about to happen, and Flamu actually gets the kill, or has gotten the kill by this stage. He kills that destroyer, and that actually puts us far enough ahead in points that we're about to hit 1,000. So, oh yes, but for that incredibly lucky double Citadel, I mean, that bought us enough time for Flamu to then... I mean, there was nothing lucky about that. Flamu made that drop perfectly, killed that enemy Benson, and that was enough to put us over the top. So there was a bit of luck involved there, but you can see why we walked away from that one thinking they were by far the toughest team. None of the others brought us quite so close to defeat as that, and it was thoroughly enjoyable and thoroughly entertaining. And if you listen to the live stream, you'll know that the guy that was leading the team, Hansi Hock, I think his name is, he actually stepped into the TeamSpeak, because we were on the World of Warships TeamSpeak. He stepped onto the room we were in and said, you know, what an enjoyable fight it had been. But yeah, they definitely deserved their extra goodies that they got out of that. That was a really fun fight. And I definitely hope to be doing more team battles again in the future, because it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. So hopefully, talking of enjoyment, you have liked this video, and if you have, you can leave any comments about it below. You can hit that like button, you can sub to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.